because once we get started and get through the preliminaries of this, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, cool.
And you do your thing.
You think Don's gonna remember?
Probably not. Oh, that Donnie. He's like having another child running around the house, isn't he? Oh, Donnie, 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 Donnie. Where are you, Donnie, Donnie?
Hey Sarah, have you noticed the real time closed captioning scrolling on the bottom?
Yeah, I had to activate it.
Okay, that's
You
kind
have
of
to activate it for each meeting too, just so you know.
okay.
But yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It's pretty accurate too. I was surprised because usually
Hmm.
they're not
Hello, Donnie.
particularly great at capturing the word.
You know you're supposed to be in a 6:30 meeting. Oh, okay. Zoom. Yep. I'll wait for you. Okay. Bye.
No.
Donnie's a little late, but we'll wait. Give him a second here and wait for him.
Okay.
He's typing right now, or supposedly typing right now.
Sounds good.
It's like having another child.
Just so you know, Bob, there is one thing before the current item that's on there that I have in the presentation. It's for the mowing analysis.
Oh, okay.
So that's the first part of it. I didn't have anything to hand out for it, so Sarah didn't know it was in the presentation.
That's okay. I guess you can just kind of give us what you got.
Okay.
I think maybe if you give it to us tonight, maybe we won't do much with it. We'll try to, being that it is kind of short notice, we'll try to work it in some other night and talk it over and see what we got.
Yeah, really all of this is just introducing it so people aren't aware of what, is going on in my head.
Right. Right, Donnie, where are you? You said you were typing as we spoke. I'll give him about 2 more minutes to see if he gets in here. Sarah, you're at the office.
Yep, it was just easier to come in here to do this than to kick my daughter upstairs.
Let's see. Somebody must be on the phone. That's not Don's number.
I think it's Jeff.
Okay. Joe's in. Well, trying to get in. All right, Donnie, you got 1 more minute and that's it. We'll call this meeting to order. I don't know where you disappeared to. I just talked to you. You said you were getting in.
Here he is.
Is he here, Sarah?
Yeah, I just let him in.
Sorry about that,
Oh,
guys.
there he is.
Sorry about that.
Better late than never, Donnie.
Right. Well, only 2 minutes late? Would have been real late if it wasn't for the phone call, though.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to call this Personnel Committee meeting to order. Is there any public comments or anything like that out there, Sarah, that you see?
Not that I see.
Okay. Tonight we are here to have Matt present a PowerPoint thing for an assistant city manager position. We're gonna let Matt I'm gonna turn this meeting over to you, Matt, and you do your thing. You do you.
Okay, thanks, Bob. I appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen so that everybody can see the PowerPoint. And the first thing on here actually is going to be about blight, not but just blight mowing, but the city taking over mowing operations. I figured it would be a good opportunity to provide you with an analysis that I did on that real quick. That way we're all thinking about it. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. So I spent the last couple weeks just kind of creating a little bit of a thought process in my head about, how the organization is going, after the year that I've been here, just kind of observing and seeing how things are going and how things are done. And really realize that there's a lot of puzzle pieces to put together, and there are some missing pieces and some pieces that are kind of lost out in space. And I've been thinking a lot about it, and I've been putting together my thoughts in this presentation. The first thing is kind of addressing something that council has mentioned a couple times, and that is the bringing back the mowing operations into the city as an in-house operation. And so that's the second purpose of this presentation. And I want to talk about mowing first because it's something that council has initiated. I started this by thinking about, what does it look like for the city to contract the service versus what does it look like for us to bring it back in-house and spend the budget, the time, the energy into doing that on our own. And the first thing I did was I looked at what our expenditures look like as a contracted services. So over the last 5 years, our average cost for mowing in the city has been about $26,000. And that's both blight mowing and the general park and city facility mowing that we have done through the 2 contracts. So keep that 26,000 in mind because I use it later as a starting point for my projected budgets. And Jeff is on the phone as well in case there's any questions about the needed equipment for this bringing back into the city operation. And this represents sort of like a minimum level of what we would need to bring back mowing in-house in terms of the equipment that we need. We have deficits in these areas of equipment because we wouldn't be able to just hire a handful of people and throw them out and have them mow. We don't have the commercial level equipment to handle the mowing operation right now. So this would be what your initial investment in the mowing operation would be, and it's about $115,000 worth of equipment based on Jeff's analysis and needs assessment. The top one here, the Kubota tractor, that's something that would be a replacement for a current piece of equipment. So the impact isn't as bad because it isn't necessarily just something new that we need. But this would replace the John Deere that we have because the maintenance operation in the parks, if we took it over, would use that piece of equipment probably quite a bit when we're doing mulch and doing things like that. So we would need pickup trucks, we would need trailers, we would need the mowers, we would need smaller mowers, which are these 48-inch mowers for blight, so we can get in between fences. We would need weed whips, backpack blowers, edgers, pole saws, everything that you would need to maintain the landscape of our parks and to address blight problems. On the personnel side, as Jeff reviewed his DPW guys, in order to maintain the parks at a minimum level, the way we're doing it now with contractors, we would have to hire roughly 5 part-timers, 3 specifically dedicated for park maintenance, and 2 that could be broken off to do the blight mows each week. Those blight mows aren't constant, so we wouldn't necessarily have enough blight for them to take care of every week, so they would most likely be brought in to also help with the parks while there's nothing else to do. And then with all the new equipment, in addition to the equipment needs we have now, we would need to hire, and I think council has mentioned this before, a full-time mechanic. This position is already defined in the DPW AFSCME collective bargaining agreement. So that's where the salary came from. The starting wage would be $17 per hour for 40 hours a week for 52 weeks. And then you see the salary here, and then roughly the benefits would be an additional $30,000 on top of the salary. The initial investment in that would be in the 2021 budget, if the city decided to bring back mowing in-house, would be $209,000 as a budgeted number. So that would be purchasing the equipment and hiring the personnel to take care of that service for us. In future years, the 11,000 in the equipment line would include maintenance on all of the equipment we have, in addition to the fuel costs. Fuel costs will go up because of the vehicle. The mowers and all the other handheld equipment would need to be obviously maintained and filled with fuel to work at least probably 5 to 6 months a year. The cost drops a little bit because of the initial shock of the investment in equipment kind of goes away, but annually it goes up probably 2 or 3% just based on inflation. And then once you get about 5 years out, I'm expecting that something will need to be replaced. So there's a little bit of an increased cost there. And obviously you don't really know if it's going to be something small or something big. So there's just a little bump there. This is a lot of the equipment that we have in the initial investment will have a useful life of probably about 5 years if it's used on a consistent basis. Hopefully the mechanic maintaining it might extend that a little bit, but I can't imagine that something that's being used that often for that amount of acreage, particularly if the things are used for blight. Blight mowers and equipment typically get chopped up a little bit faster because people have stuff in their yards that you run over, you bust blades, you get stuff caught in them, stuff like that. So that's a little bit of a harder life for that equipment. If you want to compare what a contract projected for this year moving forward versus in-house mowing would be, I did a quick analysis here. You're talking in the first year, if we contracted, it would probably be around $26,000 for a new contract. That's the average for the last 5 years. I assume it'll be something similar once we bid it. In the first year, if the city takes over, you're talking $209,633 based on our estimate of need for personnel and equipment. And that's kind of a base level, so we could reduce it more, but if you get what you pay for in terms of, you know, how you invest in it. So to do it right, I think we would need to do it at this level, or even more, depending on what we found out in that first year of what things work and what things don't. Now, based on this, I would not recommend jumping into a $183,000 increase in the budget for mowing. I think there are things that we can do before we get to this investment level. And it would be my suggestion that we try to maximize our contract instead of trying to bring it back in-house. And one of the things that I've been thinking about ever since we had this contract go out last year was recreating it so that it includes some more items for pay applications. We established a more defined procedure for the mowing programs. We put in our desired level of service so we know what that's going to cost us up front. It would be nice to have a dedicated crew. Was one of the problems that you have with the contractors is that they hire people and they come and go. and building in performance measures for these contracts would be a standard practice. The other thing that I think would help us get a better return on our investment for contracting would be an extended contract for 3 to 5 years. It would create a sense of security for the contractor. It could potentially draw more interest from professional firms that are a little bit further away, and it might increase competition. So these folks might sharpen their pencils a little bit if they knew they had a potential for a 3 to 5 year contract with the city, so they wouldn't have to be begging for jobs every single year. And of course, it would reduce the administrative burden on us in the office to redraft and rebid the projects every single year. So I think with these couple of things that we could actually maximize our contract, see how it works, and then reevaluate it in a few years if it doesn't work. But an increase of $183,000 on something that we've been saving money on for so long, it seems drastic. And so are there any comments or questions on that piece?
No, I just think we're going to have to sit down and come up with an RFP that covers a lot of more things than what we just want them to do. Yes, it's going to cost us a little bit more money, but I cannot see us taking basically $185,000 hit to buy some lawnmowers and send somebody out to mow grass. I mean, that's a heck of a hit just to take for a year, and then we find out that it's not any better than what we already had.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it makes more sense to go the opposite way, to try to make a few changes in the contract, and then if that doesn't work, start considering an increase in bringing it back. But the contract as is could be developed better, and I think that given the opportunity, in addition to that, perhaps that 3-year longevity, we might be able to get better service and better competition if we took that route.
And that may be true because everybody thinks that it's just a 1-year thing. They're going to throw us out next spring anyway. We don't really need to do a decent job. This way here, if they do have it for 3 years, they may kind of want to do a little bit better job so they can keep it for the 3 years.
Right.
As far as spending that kind of money on lawnmowers and things like that, I didn't know how much we actually had sitting around, not being utilized, but obviously there's not a lot that we still have left from the old crews.
I think the numbers are blown way out of proportion, but that's just my thought.
Yeah.
You said a tractor that we need to replace anyway. You said a mechanic that we need anyway.
Well, first of all, Don, you're never going to get a mechanic to work for $17,000 an hour.
No, you're not. No, a good mechanic costs you more than that. But I'm just saying, you can't say the mechanics for mowing grass. The mechanic would be for a lot more. The lawnmowers, the top of the line lawnmowers, because I buy them, they're called Skag, commercial lawnmower. A 48-inch would cost you about $6,000. 60-inch is about $12,000. A 54-inch is $9,000. That's for Skag, top of the line. Should get about 8,000 hours usage out of it, which is quite a few years. I had one, I put 5,000 hours on it. Never no maintenance. $800 for a blower sounds way extreme. That's just my opinion.
I think there's,
Well, these are based on quotes that Jeff got. So.
Well, yeah, from where? From where? I mean,
if you buy a steel backpack blower commercial, the best one they have on the market, it's about $797.
So why would you
I bought one for my house, so I know. So if you buy a steel backpack blower, the 800 series blower, which is the top of the line blower out there right now with steel. And we have another backpack blower? Yes, we do have another one, but it's an older one, and we've had some troubles with it. And yeah, it probably just needs the carbs or something cleaned in it, but can we really get by with one when we got people cleaning down the DDA areas also, so I threw it in there. That might have been a little hot, they might give us a little better deal on the steel being municipality, but I was just basing it off of what I paid for mine, and they're about $800.
I'm just not sure that this is the way we want to go right now at this point in time, juncture of time. That's my opinion on this. If we could redo this contract a little bit different, so are aware of what we are going to get, and we tell these people that this is what we need to have done, I think we'll be a little bit better off. Plus, we still got to consider the wages, the insurance, all these things that we have to put on this just to make sure that, we have to have insurance on these people out there mowing grass and things like that. So liability insurance and things. So there's a lot more behind the scenes of this than just putting somebody out with a lawnmower and telling them to go cut grass.
I understand. You got to have workman's comp on them. I agree 100%.
Right. But, and that starts to add up to a bunch more money that,
Right.
Matt
I'm
really
sorry. I apologize. I thought we already had 2 or 3 guys that we hire for the summer. I'm sorry.
We do that, but they get paid from the DDA.
Yeah.
They're the DDA people, quote unquote.
Right. I know. I thought we hired a couple also.
We hired one to help. Didn't we hire one?
Yeah.
Matt,
Yep.
to help around.
Yeah.
Yep. We got one part-time to help us out in the summertime for the DPW, and 3 usually seasonals for up at the DDA. But with those kids, you never have all 3 of them hardly ever there at the same time. They want time off here and there on their vacations for the summer too. So it seems like you hire 3 and end up with 2 pretty consistent, but. And you're right about that tractor, that Kubota to replace the John Deere. That doesn't really, that we're going to need that anyways. You're right about that, Don. So
I just think that we need to sit down and go over this contract a little bit more in depth of how we're going to word it and what we expect out of these people when they go to bid it. I think that's the way to go right now, because $185,000 difference, I can't see us spending $185,000 just to cut grass.
Right. Yeah, what I put in there would be what we budgeted, and then of course when you go to do it, you might get different prices here and there.
Well, sure, but it comes down to a big chunk of money, right, to find out. We do it 1 year to find out, 1, we can't probably find qualified help. And 2, we've got a lot of money invested in equipment that if all of a sudden, we can't find the help or this isn't feasible anymore, there it sits.
Right. And the other thing I think about too is the way we bill for the blight mows. It would completely change, because in our contract, we define what they can charge based on square footage. If the city is doing it, we would charge hourly rates of the people, the equipment rates based on MDOT's Schedule C, and those rates would be much larger, because some of those, like the truck rate, the mower rate, trailers, they would all be charged directly to the people who were receiving those blight violations. So it would be an increase in cost to the community, which may be a deterrent, but at least during the period of time when we're doing blight mows, those costs would be like a 1-for-1 hourly reimbursement for that time. And I don't know what that would be. We would have to sit down and, based on the equipment that we had for that, we would have to create an hourly rate charge for that, in addition to the $100 fee that council put on it last year. So it may be more. It may cost the citizens more than it does now.
You had something, Joe? I thought I heard you chime in.
Yeah. From what I remember, the reason this is coming up is because, the DDA area, Atwood Park and stuff looks spotless in the summertime. But our other parks are not kept up to the standards we want them to. That's one of the reasons this came up. If we took it back in house, somehow we had to make the standards for the parks equal to what the DDA does downtown or better,
Yeah, And I believe we can do that if we change the wording in this contract. I mean, this contract has gone out every year as a blight mow, or you mow the park. Well, I guess my idea of mowing the park and their idea are probably two different things. You know what I mean, Joe? I mean, so some people like to mow in a straight line, and some people will go all over the place and mow the lawn. And I think maybe if we define that a little bit more and establish that, no, you're going to do it this way, and this is the way we want it done for this much money. I mean, I think we can probably do this without costing ourselves a whole lot of money in the end.
Yeah, I remember maybe 3-4 years ago, we had in bid two, spraying and fertilizing too.
Right. And we've taken that, and we've taken all that away from them. You know, we don't let them spray the weeds. We don't let them fertilize the lawn anymore.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't fertilized the lawn in this town since I've been on the council, and that's 5 years now. You know, so lawn does deteriorate, but we need to maybe direct these people, whoever's bidding this, in a little bit better direction.
And one other thing with the trading of the lawn, it's like a separate item. And it
Correct.
was actually in the
One of the guys had
RFP
it in there,
last
yeah.
year, but they don't always fill it out because it's not required.
And maybe, Matt, we should probably put that in there just in case the council wants, you know, you fill that, say, like an application. I mean, the lawn, we're going to tell you what we want, and we're going to tell you what we want you to do as far as spraying and that of weeds, and get a price on each, you know, the lawn mowing and the service of spraying the lawn or treating the lawn.
Right.
You know, and that should be part of everybody's application.
You should do it separate, because
Right. But
little guys can't compete. I mean, if you want somebody to spray and fertilize cheap, you know, I mean, True Green or somebody like that's going to be way cheaper than anybody local.
well, because they got bigger equipment.
Right. Exactly. The little guys can't compete. I mean, if we want to save money, that's the way we would go, is just, you know, I'm just using True Green for an example. I'm sure there's other ones,
Right.
bigger companies, you know.
And what I'm saying is, you know, the areas around the play equipment, splash pad, yeah, that lawn should be looking spotless. And then
Right.
Chippewa Landing area on the north side of the road should be looking spotless. I'm not saying all that areas need to be fertilized and sprayed, but just the areas where we draw people to, have a lot of people to.
Right. And I think we need to look at that. Maybe like Don said, maybe get a price from the local guy. So we, you know, maybe he can compete, or maybe he can't. But then if we can't, well, then we go outsource it somewhere else if we want to do it. But I think we should give them a chance to do it first before we just say, hey, no, you can't do it.
Bob, you know what the problem is to do that, you have to have special licensing and
Yes,
stuff,
I do
because
know that.
yeah, because it's the pesticides.
Yeah. And I do believe a couple of the contractors around here do still spray their own lawns.
Right.
I mean, there is one, I have somebody spray this one here out of Frankenmuth. They have 4 or 5 big trucks that go around, you know,
Right.
spraying. So we could work at it, but as far as the grass cutting itself, we just have to tell them what we want and how we want it done. I mean, you just can't go tell them, okay, there's the part, cut the grass. You know, it's not, you know, that's not what we want. We want it to be clean looking and you know.
You don't want just mowed, you want it groomed.
Right. Yeah, there you go, Don.
I tell people that with my yard. I don't mow just because it has to be mowed. I mow it to make it look good.
Right.
Yeah, I even noticed, you know, the sewer plant mows their own, and that grass always looks a lot better than other areas.
Right. So we just have to give these people, I think, a little bit more direction in what we're doing with this and that, and see how it works. And maybe Matt's right. Maybe we offer it for 2 years. You know, if you win it once, you got it for 2 years, and then we'll see what that company can do for 2 years. Now, then if we don't like it, we know we don't hire them again. We move on.
Okay.
I guess, is there any more questions for Matt on this, or can Matt move on with his PowerPoint? Emily, are you here? Joe, you got anything more?
I'm here. I'm good.
You're good. Don, you got anything more to add to this?
No.
Okay, and I think, Matt, I think you should bring this back up like maybe the last meeting of March so we can get this worked out for what we want. So in April, when you send these RFPs out, we know what we want done and how we want it done.
I'm not on mute.
I can also between now and there, I won't just bring nothing and come empty-handed. I'll make some suggestions and present that as well.
Okay.
All right. All right. So I've been thinking a lot about the city's organization and kind of how it works kind of on a day-to-day basis. And so here's what the city's org chart looks like. You can see obviously the citizens of Caro at their top. The city council is, directly responsible to them through the elections. And then you have the 4 administrative officers in the city, which is me, the assessor, Sarah, the city attorney. And then of course you have the council appointed boards and commissions. Now I want to explain this dotted line because it's important to part of my presentation. This dotted line is kind of it's a charter defined relationship between the 5, but the clerk treasurer is combined, the 5 administrative officers of the city. You can see that like the police and fire and DPW, they all are responsible to me and they report directly to me. The 3 other administrative officers in the city, they report directly to the council and are appointed and removed by council. But the charter also establishes this, what I'm calling a partial reporting responsibility for those folks to the city manager. So really what it means is if they aren't doing something they're statutorily required to do, then I can also provide them with some direction, although they have no real responsibility to me whatsoever. And that's important to understand. So, and underneath the clerk treasurer, you have all of the administrative staff, including the deputy clerk and the 2 girls in the front office. And so I'm going to zoom into the current, what I'm calling the administrative organization, which is essentially the departments. And you can see, starting at the top, you've got me, the assessor, treasurer, attorney, and below us you have the various people and areas that we're responsible for. Now you can see that under Sarah, she has deputy clerk treasurer and administrative staff, and those are the folks that she has at her disposal to help her in her daily duties. For the areas that I'm responsible for, I have this blue line, this blue shaded area. And those are the areas that I'm directly responsible for, but do not have assistance in. And of course, you have the rest of the department heads, the fire, police, DPW, wastewater treatment plant. I've also broken out their areas of responsibility. What you see here is that there is a space between me and the rest of the department heads where my responsibilities kind of butt into the organization. So you could assume that this is like what the office of the city manager is responsible for. And these areas are starting to have an uptick in development. And as you saw over the last year, the amount of projects and work related to these areas has gone up quite a bit. So I sent you the proposed draft job description for an assistant city manager. And the way I envisioned that assistant city manager would be through this proposed sort of administrative organization. Or it still maintains this blue shaded area of the manager's responsibility, but it provides a person who can be delegated projects so that I can focus more on overall strategic and organizational matters, like personnel matters, special projects that are like really important that council brings up. And it also provides somebody who has a main focus on these strategic areas: community and economic development, parks and recreation, helping with planning and zoning capital projects, and this general catch-all that I'm calling strategic initiatives, which would be essentially anything that I need help with. The reason that this dotted line is important for this proposal is because if you come into the office, you see that there are 5 of us working, and you have the clerk, the deputy clerk, and 2 administrative staff who are essentially dedicated to the clerk and treasurer duties. You know, they take the money, they deal directly with the public, they work on sort of lower level administrative work. And here coming up soon, they're also going to be taking on the forward facing work for the police department. They're going to be sort of the point folks for people coming in and requesting police services. They'll also be answering the phones for the police and working through that process to help the police department with their administrative work. So when I have projects to do over here in this area, these administrative staff people are already at their capacity doing other things. And as Bob likes to put it, the clerk and treasurer are busy clerking and treasuring, and they do not have space in their portfolio for me to ask for help. So every project that we get is started, prepared, planned, executed, concluded all by me. So, and the way I've been doing that is I have to take the top priority items, triage them, and I have to work on one at a time in order to keep the flow going. They can, on occasion, they do help me with pulling reports out of the accounts payable system or payroll information or things like that. But on a day-to-day basis, I do not have anyone to delegate a project to if I have competing projects coming up against one another. So that's where the concept of an assistant city manager came in play. And that's why I'm here kind of introducing you guys to the idea to see how you feel about it. And this organizational picture that I'm painting is just a way for me to kind of communicate to you how it looks versus how it is. So the assistant city manager essentially is what it sounds like. They would work for me. They would do a lot of high-level operational assignments. They would be doing some of the complex items that administrative staff don't have time or cannot do based on the collective bargaining agreements and their position descriptions. This person would also be responsible for spearheading a lot of park projects, some of the development stuff, and really being a team player that I can use to help divide and conquer some of the major projects that are coming down the pike and the things that we have ongoing. So a little bit more about what they would do. This is an excerpt from the position description that I provided you. They would assist me in ongoing process of operating the city. They would work with departments on special projects. They would help keep me up to date on concerns about program proposals, and help me put together submissions to you for any kind of programs or processes or procedures that we may need to be dealing with. Helping research special reports and standard reports that we do, ordinances, dealing with legal issues, coming up with those strategies, gathering and assembling information, basically so that we have the best information and data possible in a timely manner. This person would manage any special projects that I would assign them. And in a couple slides later, I have an example of the kind of things that I would have them do. This person would help push forward the city's strategic objectives. So, we're talking about master plan at the Planning Commission. This person would have partial responsibility for making sure that we are meeting those objectives and competing with those goals to make sure that we achieve them. My thought is that while we're building capacity for Parks and Rec and community development, this person would oversee the preparation of that programming. They would be in charge of, the research and analysis for creating new programs, working with me and the park committee on creating those, being backup as a staff person that I can rely on to help me, diffuse all the projects that are coming at us. And then also somebody who can work on community and economic development stuff, somebody who can work with the farmers market and the DDA to do, backup and staff assistance, and help me with planning and zoning. This person would be fostering positive relationships. This hopefully getting the right person in place would help with community engagement, working with residents, community groups, business leaders, other local governments, and anyone who would need to be discussed with in matters that they're more familiar with at my direction. This person would help staff some of the boards and committees that they would be more apt to work with. So maybe the DDA or park, they might, fill in for me on occasion at these meetings, things like that. The big piece that would be something that I think is a good thing for the city council to consider is creating a position that has longevity. So this person would be able to act as a city manager in my absence, or if for whatever reason, give an example, I don't perform well or something, and you have to search for another manager or something to that effect, knock on wood. I don't think that'll happen, but you would have a position in place that you wouldn't have to go and find somebody, and you'd be able to develop them, and the next city manager would be able to help develop that person. And one of the other things that this person would be mainly in charge of would be creating succession plans for all of the departments. Why an assistant city manager? Now, there's a lot of high-level work that has to be done, and as I mentioned before, there is no subordinate employee to the city manager who has the time or ability to do that. So we're talking the special projects that we work on, dealing with the strategic planning. I want to do succession plans for all the departments, and I need a point person for that. The department heads will be, working with them on that. Implementing the master plan, I know that is a big thing. We don't want to have all of our plans sitting on the shelf collecting dust, and this would be an important person who would help me push those projects forward and help me really divide and conquer. The community and economic development piece, parks and recreation, the highlighted areas I have on here would be their sort of focus areas that I would kind of unleash them on, and they would be able to kind of spearhead some things and work with me on dealing with projects and priorities in those areas. At the same time, I have the ability to focus on organizational development and dealing with personnel issues, because these two things are conflicting, and a lot of times they get in each other's way in terms of, having the ability to focus on creating and accomplishing goals through these projects. At the same time, you have personnel issues and personality conflicts that I have to deal with. It would really be a benefit if I had somebody that can take the baton while my focus is in someplace different, and then be able to come back and have progress on projects so they don't sit for a long time. And I know that's a priority of the city council, is to not only keep the top priority items moving, but also try to make progress on some of the smaller items as well. And this position, quite frankly, is really the only way to accomplish that moving forward. So I did a thought exercise about, okay, if I had an assistant city manager, what would I have had them do looking back at 2020? So on the left-hand side, these are all the things that I 100% would have kept because of the stakes. They're high stakes, they're high visibility, they're major projects that need, somebody who is going to be the face of it and be fully responsible for those items. Other projects on the right-hand side that I probably would have assigned to this assistant city manager until they became issues would be things like the splash pad project, the dog park, story walk, working on smaller projects. For larger projects like the easements for the Caro Center, I could have had them doing the background work for that, researching capital purchases. If I had an assistant city manager, this person would have worked with Jeff to get the analysis completed for his backhoe purchase, doing mowing analysis, keeping track of operations on the technical end of things, handling simple citizen complaints, doing simple zoning applications, and then doing behind the scenes research of opportunities for COVID-19 grants. Those are the things that I would have had the assistant city manager do, while I was able to focus on the other major priorities that occurred in the last year. You might be thinking, okay, this person is going to be working mostly in Parks and Rec and economic development, so why not just hire people for Parks and Rec and economic development? Well, to be honest, if we're successful in meeting our strategic goals and objectives, we may need people in the future for that. The problem is that right now, we don't have enough of that specialized programming to support those positions. So really, we have high-level administrative and management work that needs to be done to build that capacity so that those positions may be needed in the future. To me, the assistant city manager is a strategic full-time position meant truly to attract the best and the brightest who can fill in the gaps of these targeted growth areas while we build the capacity in those areas to take the city to the next level. This is crucial in our overall project management and development, because it allows me to focus on other areas while this person is gaining strides in more technical assignments involving research, analysis, and development of those projects, while I work with council and others to create the strategy for those. And of course, as I mentioned, it'll allow me to focus more on the community and organizational issues as overall strategic items and less on the technical nitty-gritty details of things. I don't mind those items, but when I have multiple competing projects and priorities at once, getting into the nitty-gritty details of every single one, it requires that I prioritize and put some stuff on the back burner while I work on one thing at a time or two things at a time to get them moving forward. So how much would two separate department directors cost? The Community and Economic Development Director, according to the Michigan Municipal League salary data for 2020, for communities under 10,000, the average salary is about 71,000. And it's roughly the same for Parks and Rec Director. Their average salary is about 75,000. For these positions in our community, comparable to some of our other department heads, their range would be somewhere between $55,000 and $75,000. And then when you calculate all the benefits, a person in these positions topped out at 75,000 would be a cost of $115,000 a year. And it's actually very similar for assistant city managers in the same community range. The average salary is 69,000. Top end is pretty high at 91. Low end is actually confusingly low at 35. But again, the proposed range here would be someplace between 55 and 75,000. So having one person doing two areas would be about the same as one of those other positions at about 115 annually. Now, I'm calculating all of this on the highest scale. And now that would be a top out person who wouldn't go any higher than that. So if we were to hire someone in the next year or two, that salary would not be that high. So this is kind of like a worst case scenario type of estimate. So now that you have kind of my laid out backstory and a kind of a picture of what the financial impact would be, let me know what you think. Have any questions?
I have one. How are our neighbors communities doing at Vassar, Cass City, and Bad Axe? Do they have assistant managers or more staff than we do?
I believe they have other positions they do. I think some are part-time, others are not, but I don't have the specific information on those communities. I received this information as a comparison from all around the state.
Yeah, I was wondering how, our neighboring communities are getting it done with manager and you're saying we need more help.
Yep. I think we've had a different year though. We've had many more projects than most of the communities around us at one time. If that's going to continue, I think we do need help. If we're going to slow down, then I mean we can manage. But as I mentioned before, I have nobody to delegate anything to. So it's every project that I work on, every special issue that pops up, for the most part, it's all on my shoulders, and that's okay. I can manage that, but it's not a long-term solution for success, because I will get burnt out at some point. When your departments are already at their capacity, some of them are already claiming that they are understaffed. If we add anything to them, we have to add something. So if it's not an assistant city manager, then it should be something else somewhere. All the departments are at their capacities already with everything they're doing, and as we grow and move forward with projects, it's going to cause stress on the organization.
I was just wondering about the comparison of us and Bad Axe are about the same size. Cass City's just a hair smaller than us, and Vassar's just a hair smaller than us too. And I read about them in the paper every week of what they have going and new things.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yep, I can look at them. Any other thoughts?
I'm going to have to sit back and think about this for a little bit, Matt. I'm not totally against it, but even if you started at say 55,000, I see you have wrote here in your documents here. Really, 55 is what kind of person are we going to get for that? Is there somebody that is willing to do this job for 55,000 to start out with? I'm not sure that there is. Maybe there is. I'm not sure, but I need a little bit more time to kind of weigh into what we're going to do with this person, and I mean, you had a good thing here tonight. I mean, it did help. I am reading your stuff. I read your thing here. But I gotta, at the end of the day, I gotta justify putting a person on there and make sure that we're getting, basically, I guess, to say our money's worth out of this person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It's going to be kind of a tough thing to do, but if it's going to move this city forward, I would love to see that. Now, if another person doing something else would move us that much faster into getting something, it seems that the council wants things done faster. Is that what you're kind of saying, Matt? In a
I
long
am.
way.
Yeah, I've been, for a year I've been here, and I've noticed that the council has high expectations for turnaround on projects, both big and small.
Right.
And when I came in, there were a lot of projects that were on the list to do, and
Yep.
as somebody who has to essentially do them by myself, I had to prioritize, and I heard a handful of times, how come things aren't getting done faster? How come things aren't being done faster? And the answer is because I was the only one doing them for the most part.
We don't usually have that many projects going on. This year was an exceptional year.
Okay.
Wasn't it, guys?
It was, and I believe that if we could keep the pace that we're going, we could get a lot more done. I mean, I don't want to just do, okay, we had a good year. 2020, we had a good year. We got some things done. Well, what we got to do? Sit back on our hands again at 2021 and not do anything? I mean, right now, I can think of about 4 things we should be doing right now, right here today, sitting here in this chair. We should be getting our roads ready to be whatever we're going to do in roads, our sidewalks done, whatever project we're going to do in capital projects is for Parks and Rec. I mean, there's tons of things out here that should be in the works as we're sitting in the chairs tonight. So come spring, when everything's ready to go, we're ready. Let's go. Let's do these things. I mean, instead of sitting here, not doing anything, we should be moving on. And I know that there's people out there that feel that we need to move forward some more. I mean, one splash pad, one dog park in a road done, to me, that ain't much.
No,
I mean,
we
you have to
had
spend a lot of money doing it.
no, we had the splash pad, we had the police station, we had the farmers market, we had the dog park, and we had the road work all done at the same time. That's what I'm saying. Usually, I mean, we're not doing that many projects. We had 5 big projects going.
Right. 5
Usually-
big projects, but we could be having why can't we have 10 smaller projects going at one time too, though, Don? I mean, like fixing roads, getting our sidewalks ready to go. I mean, there's a ton of things that we could be doing right now sitting here.
Now, certain projects are annual projects.
Correct. And I know that, Joe, but we shouldn't be just sitting here talking about these projects. We should be moving forward with these projects. Let's do these things. I mean, I'll be the one that says that I'm probably the biggest bitcher of all of us about getting things done. I'll admit it. But we can't just sit and do nothing. We have to move on. And if we have 10 small projects instead of 5 big ones, that's fine with me. But at least something's getting done.
Yeah, I guess my only observation and my concern is, and I bring this up as kind of like the ideal situation, but it's not always, we don't always get ideal. The expectation has been that I, work on, 4, 5, 6 projects at the same time and get them done all in the same amount of time. And that isn't feasible. I can work on a couple at a time. Some get pushed back. Something pops up, it gets pushed back more. I start working on it, something else pops up. Because not only am I working on the project management side of things, in addition to the stuff that happens every year, but there's also fires that I have to put out with employees and problems in the community and and dealing with stuff that comes up at council meetings that need immediate attention. So I just want to bring that to your attention so that everyone is cognizant that, you know, while we have these grand ideas, our capacity is limited. So it's just a conversation piece really at this point. I don't expect for the council to, you know, go to the next meeting and approve this position. But I do think it's important for me to speak up and say, look, our organization is having trouble keeping up. And we have to think about that. And I want council to be cognizant of that too, that, you know, with the expectation of getting things done, more things done in the same amount of time, you have to diffuse what you're working on, because I know, Don, you've seen, or Bob, you've seen the board in my office. It's got like 30 things on it that I'm focused on at any given moment. And it's continuing now. So, and this year, you're right, is an anomaly, but I just want to bring it to the council's attention, or at least the personnel committee at this point, just to think about how we can help create capacity, because that is going to be an issue moving forward.
And we need to get closed up so that we can go on to the next meeting.
Yep.
Okay, little Sarah, do you see anybody else got any questions for Matt with this, or are we good? Is there anybody else out there in public comment there, Sarah, do you see?
I don't see any.
Okay, I'll motion to adjourn this meeting.
Support.
Motion and support. Everybody say yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, this personnel committee meeting is closed. I'll see you in 2 minutes.